Thank you, Brother Daniel. That was such a soothing musical piece, wasn't it? Very enjoyable. To God be the glory for the great things that he has done. Um, so we are going to get a little neighborly and friendly right now. It is now for our icebreaker. But before we do that, if you all can bow your heads, close your eyes, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we are so grateful for being here tonight. Lord, we are so thankful for this church. We're thankful for our community. Lord, help us to learn some helpful hints and strategies tonight. Please be with the speaker of the night. Lord, we thank you for everyone that has come out to support her and to join us tonight. We thank those that are online, that are always coming out online and in person um, to support us. Lord, and we thank you for the work that we are doing, and hopefully that through you that we can reach and touch others. Lord, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, icebreaker time. So I want you to, we're small in numbers tonight, but if you can reach out to one person next to you, because you have to have a conversation at this time. So reach out, and either one or two or three. So you're going to ask, okay, so we're going to ask around, what is your favorite can of soda to drink? And if you don't drink soda, okay, let's just pretend. Just pick a flavor. Mine is peach soda. Okay, I love that. So let's think of our favorite can of soda. And just like a can of soda, we're gonna picture, you shake it up, shake it up. So for what happens when you shake up that can of soda? It starts fizzing, and if you open it up, what happens? Everywhere. Okay, so we are going to pretend, just like that can of soda, when we are stressed, when we have anxiety, when we have anger, um, depression, all of those are in that can of soda. Okay, and you just picture that just building up, building up. And what you're going to discuss with your partner is, when was a time that you felt like that can of soda being shaken up? And let's keep it brief. Um, how do you usually deal with stress? And is it helpful? Like, do you feel relieved after that? Um, why or why not? Okay? So I'll be back, and you guys can start to discuss with each other. And I'll remind you again, so the first one, share, well, say hi, say your name, and then what is your favorite can of soda? And first question, um, what was a time that you felt like that kind of soda being shaken up? You felt stressed, depressed, anger, you know, anxiety, okay, all of that. And I'll be back.
Sign me up. How do I end this? Okay, it's good. Thanks. Hold on, keep your laugh up. Uh-oh. Let me see if I can find this thing.
All right, guys, I'll give you about one more minute if you need. Maybe a minute. Yeah. Okay, online. We are wrapping it up. We'll be back very soon. Mhm. Just to share, I was walking around and I heard some things: shut down, cry, workout. So it's. Do you all find those techniques that you've talked about? Do you find that it's working for you to help to relieve stress? Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up so we could get into the meat of the program. So tonight we have Theresa Brown. She is a licensed, woohoo, give her a round of applause, yes. Theresa Brown, she is a licensed mental health counselor with experience in providing compassionate and evidence-based therapy, holding a degree in mental health counseling and psychology from Troy University. She specializes in anxiety, self-esteem, relationship issues, and more. In addition to individual counseling, Theresa Brown has used her skills to teach individuals and groups how to build coping skills and improve their mental health. She is also a frequent panelist on the 9 a.m. Saturday morning Bible study show, The Squad and Friends. And some of them are here tonight, streaming on YouTube and Facebook through Patmos Chapel. Outside of counseling, Theresa enjoys being creative through event planning, hosting, and as a previous teacher, working with students in the various clubs she sponsors. She believes in taking life day by day as God orders her steps. We'll now hear from Theresa. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and happy Sabbath. I'm grateful to be here tonight. I just want to do a couple of thank yous first to, make sure I start off right. Thank you, Josiah, for having me, and thank you to Solid Rock SDA. I want to thank my family and friends that are here today. They got it on. Y'all can hear me, right? Okay, perfect. I want to thank my family and friends that are here today, Daniel Smith, my husband, Jeremiah, and my friends, Asha and Antoine. Thank you for being here. So we're going to talk a little bit today about stress, pressure, and loneliness, something that a lot of us deal with, right? At one point in our life, whether it's now or in the past, we've dealt with this or probably are still going through it now. So I just wanted to talk about some ways that we can get the ball rolling before the ball drops. We don't want to wait, for those New Year's resolutions. The ball drops and it's now a new year and now we want to just change everything in our life. Well, in order to have some change, we have to get the ball rolling now. So I want to share with you a few things that I've learned along the way just in my life, and as well as being a counselor that may be helpful for you. I am a teacher at heart, so this is going to be a little educational, and I need a little bit of response from you all, so I want this to be very engaging and helpful. All right, so it's time for a story. Okay, so in my 20s, I'm currently in my 30s. In my 20s, I spent a lot of time trying to stay busy. I hung out with friends, traveled. You know, they always give you the list of things you should do when you're in your 20s. Live your life, don't get tied down, do things. I even got a dog, which my mom thought was absolutely ridiculous because, you know, in a Caribbean household, we didn't have pets, not inside the house, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know, I'm gonna try everything that I can to keep myself busy. I hung out with friends, I focused on my students, I created and maintained clubs to stay busy. But every time Friday night came, I experienced what I called the Friday night blues. I was dealing with loneliness. I was companionless. It's like when Friday comes and everything is settling, you realize, oh, wait, I'm by myself. Like, I may have friends that I can call on, but I'm really alone here. I was sad, dealing with insecurity, bored, stressed, tired, and everything seemed to settle on Friday night. And then I would get rejuvenated again when I went to church the next day, but then the cycle continued. I was dealing with stress, pressure, and loneliness. Anybody ever been there? Yep. Friday was when I wasn't busy. So my whole week was done. My whole week of hanging with friends or doing activities or being at work was done. And now I'm sitting in my house by myself thinking about all the problems I didn't have time to think about during the week. So that's why I called it the Friday night blues. So I want to talk a little bit about stress, pressure, and loneliness. But before we can talk about it, we have to call it by name. We have to identify what that is and what it even looks like, right? So stress. Stress is your body's natural reaction when it feels threatened or if something has changed. Now, a lot of times when we talk about stress, we always make it seem so bleak and negative. Our body doesn't want to harm us. But anytime it feels threatened, it jumps into action. And sometimes the reaction can be negative and we're like, whoa, why is this happening? But your body's trying to send you a signal. So stress can be helpful to kind of keep you in line or to help you navigate stresses. But when it becomes chronic, that's when it's a problem. And your body gives you signs. Sometimes we think, oh, you know, I'm fine. Everything's good. I'm not really bothered by this. But then your hair starts falling out. You start having trouble with sleep. You're either eating a lot or not eating at all. Like, oh my gosh, I went the whole day and I didn't even eat anything. You're starting to get more agitated. You're yelling at friends or popping off at work for no reason. Things that usually didn't bother you, they're now bothering you. You're withdrawing from activities or withdrawing from people. That's a sign that there's a problem. So when it comes to stress, not all stress is bad, but it becomes a problem when we're having these negative responses. That's when we need to really be paying attention. Pressure. Come on, button. Got it. Okay. Pressure is the influence that other people or groups have on a person or a group. We can get pressure from different areas, from our peers, and even though we're not in school, we still have peers. So friends, family, church members, those are peers, and sometimes they can pressure us. We can also get pressure from family members. Family, don't we love them? They think, I'm just helping you, not realizing, no, you're stressing me out. We can get pressure from trying to conform to cultural norms or what culture decides is acceptable. Social media, we already know. Social media was intended to keep everybody connected, but we all seem more disconnected than ever. And then our own expectations. Sometimes we're not realizing that the problem is me. No one's telling me that it has to be this way. No one is forcing me to do it that way. But because I made up in my mind what it should look like, I'm functioning thereof and stressing myself out. And then we have loneliness. Loneliness is a subjective feeling. We have to be mindful not to confuse being alone with being lonely. There are many people who are alone, which is just your physical state. So like if I go home and my husband's not there, I'm alone. They confuse that with being lonely. There are many people who are okay being by themselves and they don't have that feeling, that distress. Because loneliness is a feeling of distress, whether it's because we don't have anyone like in quantity, or the people that we do have, we don't feel as connected as we think we should be. So there's a lack of meaningful relationships and therefore we feel lonely, but it's subjective. So people experience it differently. For some people it is a numbers game, and for some people it's a meanings game. So you have to be mindful. Those who are frequent or more susceptible to loneliness are those who may have no friends or family, don't have deep relationships, those who are single adults, those who are single parents, those that we don't really take account to, those who are caregivers. Their whole lives is surrounded by taking care of that sick relative or that sick child. Imagine single parents, they complain all the time about not having a babysitter. How much more does a caregiver not have a babysitter? They're usually the only person that person has. And so they feel a sense of loneliness because their life is about taking care of someone else. Those that, I have a lot of clients that tell me they feel lonely because they don't have money to go out. They're like, well, my friends are going here and then. I don't have money to go out anywhere. So we have to talk about different alternatives on how to get outside without having to spend too much. People who have experienced abuse, they've been so hurt by others that they just go away to themselves, but it doesn't take away the fact that they're lonely. They're just afraid to connect with other people, especially after what they've experienced. Why are people lonely? Life events, people who have lost loved ones. We know that we're coming upon the holidays, and each one of us at some point or time has either experienced grief and loss or know someone who has experienced grief and loss. And we all know that the holidays are one of the toughest times when it comes to that. Mental health is another thing. You have to ask yourself, am I lonely just because I'm lonely? Or is loneliness a symptom of something deeper like depression? And so that's when it's important to seek a counselor. I tell people all the time, look, I have Jesus and a therapist too. We always call him the great counselor, but then when it comes time to seeing a counselor, we're like, nah, I'm just gonna pray. No, sometimes there are deeper meanings and we have to figure out what that is. Personality, you have a lot of people who are introverts, but they complain about not having people, but then they don't wanna go out and meet the people because they're like, no, that's not for me. And so personalities also contribute to people's loneliness. Lack of meaningful relationships, social media, and culture also play a part in why people are lonely. Feelings of loneliness can cause stress and also pressure. There are some people who may have 2 good friends, but because they don't have 10 like Keisha and them, they feel like they're not as good, and then they feel lonely because, again, we're looking at quantity. They're looking at all the girls' trips that people are going on, and they haven't been on a trip since 2009, and they feel like, oh, well, I must be lonely. Remember, it's a subjective feeling based on what you feel you should have. Anybody ever heard of cuffing season? Anybody? Just give me a hand if you know. We're in cuffing season. Give me a hand if you know what I'm talking about. All right. Some of you are like, no, where is she going with this? So yes, we are in cuffing season. For those of you who are not aware, cuffing season is the time of year when single people, they want to get booed up, especially in those cold months. You know what I mean? Like that October to Valentine's Day. We're like, you know what? I should be sitting at a fireplace. Mind you, we're in Florida. Like, do I really need a fireplace? But I want to be sitting snuggled up with somebody. I don't care who it is. I just need someone to take home for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So we call it cuffing season. It's actually a thing. You can look it up. And we know the term cuff means, be locked in. Now, the issue with cuffing season is that people start getting desperate and they start making anybody an option, right? I just need a warm body to hold me at night and to take home to my mama because I'm tired of her asking me when I'm getting married. And so a lot of times you see a rise in breakups around Valentine's Day and people are like, what happened to you and your boo? Well, they don't want to admit this was a cuffing season boo, right? And now your job is done and I need to actually find a healthy relationship. Talk about pressure, even on TV. We're still in cuffing season. You can't turn on Netflix, BET Plus, Amazon, Hulu without seeing some type of cutesy holiday movie that is all surrounded by what? Love. Love. They're not going to call it cuffing season. They're trying to give you the illusion that it's all love. It's great. We found each other at the mall. I sat on Santa's lap, and now here we are. And we're always going to someone's house. Cuffing season. So talk about pressure, right? We said social media brings pressure, as well as media. You turn on the TV and you're like, man, I want that to be my life. I want to stroll down the park and see all the beautiful lights and have my little cuffing season. But again, the issue with that is we're making anybody an option just so we can say we have somebody. So I did what I had to do during my 20s. And then in my 30s, this was, age 39 between 31. I had decided in my mind that, you know what, Lord, he didn't show up in my 20s. He's not showing up. I'm okay. I'm just going to be a great aunt to all my friends' kids and just pour into them. And so they'll remember me and I'll be like, a little seed in their lives. That's it. But the Lord was like, no, I didn't tell you that. Right? So then I met my hubby, Mr. Brown. He showed up in the last hour. I'm telling you, I was like 29, it didn't happen. And here he comes strolling in right before my birthday. And I said, you are late. And so I said, okay, I have somebody now. My Friday night blues are going to be gone. I'm not going to be tired. I'm not going to be sad. I'm not going to be lonely. I'm not going to be insecure. I have somebody who wants me. Only two things went away. I had a companion, and I was no longer bored. But my Friday night blues, especially when we were dating, it still persisted. I was still tired. I was still sad. I was still insecure. I was still lonely at times. I was still afraid, and I was still stressed out. I thought something was wrong. I asked myself, what went wrong? Like, Lord, I prayed about having this relationship. I even got more friends along the way. I should be fine. I have everything that I need. I was too focused on fixing my problems with external things rather than focusing on my internal situation. I had those problems before he showed up. So how would I think that just because he's here, they're going to go away? I lacked self-management. I wasn't taking care of me and managing myself, reaching my goals, having a plan, fixing those things that were broken within myself, but I was looking for him to do it. He can't solve my problems. He didn't put them there. So I want to talk a little bit about what is that self-management, right? Sometimes we need to just be still. A lot of us have lost contentment. Being content with where we are. Being happy with what God has already given you. We keep looking for the next thing, the next trip, the next friend, the next event, the next whatever it is. But the problem with not being still and happy where you are is that you're not going to be still and happy in the next place. You get the husband, you're still sad. But we could have a bigger house. I could have had a better man. I should have been married a long time ago. And even when you get that, it's still not going to be what? Enough. Because I have not practiced how to be happy, how to have joy, how to be grateful for where I am. I'm going to read that one, it's a little small. 2 Peter 1:5-8 says, for this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection, and to mutual affection love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. It's not faith alone. We have to build relationships with God, right? We have to maintain that relationship. We have to work. We have to make an effort. It's not just that by itself. So then why do you think it's that man by himself that's going to fix all these problems? It's that house by itself that's going to make you happier. It's getting 6 more friends and I'm going to be all good. It's not that by itself. We're lacking management. We're not paying attention to what's happening on the inside, but we're looking for all these other people to fill it. There are people who could have 30 friends around them, could have the best job, but guess what? They're still stressed. They still feel alone. Nothing is ever enough. They don't know how to be okay right where they are. So you'll never be able to enjoy the next thing. We have to get the ball rolling before the ball drops. Yeah, it's nice to sing the songs and to do the dance and to get your New Year's kiss, but what's the plan? What am I going to do when that new year comes? And I don't wait till I get there to figure it out. When you go on trips, depending on the trip, you don't plan your itinerary when you arrive. You already have an idea of where you're going, where you're staying, what you're doing, and how long you'll be there. But we always wait till the new year or my next birthday or whatever monumental date we think is going to be the best one to start over or start new. But we have no plan. So I'm going to explain some ways to cope with stress, pressure, and loneliness. And I'll break it down, a little bit. And we will have a Q&A at the end. So if there's something that comes up for you, please, I'm here. So when it comes to stress, remember, not all stress is bad. But when it's chronic and your body starts responding in a negative way, you need to pay attention. Take breaks. We have the time. We just don't make the time. We have it. But what are you doing with it? Take a break. Take care of your body, whether it's drinking more water, going for a walk. You don't have to have a laundry list of things to do. Start small. The goal is consistency. It's not about quantity, it's about quality, and quality comes with consistency. Pray. If you feel like your prayer life has been, slacking a little bit, let's get back to it. Challenge your negative thoughts. The enemy has nothing but time, and all he does is try to discourage us, to bring us down, and to feed us the things that we already believe about ourselves, even though God didn't give that to you. Challenge those negative thoughts. What are you going to lose by taking that risk? If there's something that you have been thinking about for a long time, what are you going to lose by just trying? And then seek professional help. Again, if you're dealing with chronic stress, you may not have all the tools that you want to have to manage that. So talk to somebody. Find a counselor. Join a group. Be around people who can help. We were not meant to do life alone. And that's not just man and wife, but just as people. We weren't meant to do life alone. So don't do it alone. When it comes to pressure, say no. And that's something I'm even speaking to myself. Babe, relax. Relax. I felt it. I'm working on that myself. As people, we are naturally selfish, right? Born in sin, shaped in iniquity. People don't want to hear your no, because we want what we want all the time. It's your job to reinforce boundaries. The more you practice saying no, the easier it will be, because it's your job to reinforce the boundary and it's people's job to respect it. But people are going to push. You have to be strong enough to keep your no. Be resilient. When it comes to pressure, ask yourself, okay, am I on social media a little bit too much? People want to fast from all kind of things, but not that phone. I mean, they don't want to fast from that phone. They don't want to fast from TV. I see your face. It is hard, but I remember, and Asha's like, I'm good over here. I don't even have a Facebook. But I remember just deleting the app off of my phone, because it got to a point where I would wake up in the morning, roll over, and open Facebook. How sad is that? I'm not rolling over to open up my Bible, but man, I want to see who went where. Oh, she in Dubai again? What is she doing for money? So just deleting the app off of my phone took the urge away, and it helped me build a new habit. And I felt more connected to the world by getting off of line, right? So what are we doing to be resilient, to remove that pressure that we've put on ourselves or that people have put on us? Have a network. Everybody needs a cheerleader. I brought mine. Where are yours? Everyone needs a cheerleader. Find a group of people who will hold you accountable, but who can support your decisions. That's what I'm talking about. Who will give you encouragement and not either try to steal your ideas or put you down because they're mad about their own situation. You need a support group. Again, remember, we are not to do life alone. Develop a strong sense of self. A lot of times, we don't even know who we are, so we're looking for everybody to tell us. But how can people tell me how to be me when they're them? You have to have a strong sense of who you are. And if you're confused, go back to what God said about you and start from there. Get some hobbies. Figure out what it is that you enjoy. I've asked several people, what do you like to do? I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, grown people don't know what they like to do. It's amazing. But they don't. Get to know you. And keep healthy boundaries. It's okay. Your mom is gonna be mad if you tell her no, because she feels like, I gave you life, I almost died because of you. Why are you telling me no? Sometimes mommy needs a no. And it's okay. Sometimes the church needs a no. And it's okay. Now, when it comes to loneliness, remember, loneliness is subjective. Not everyone feels loneliness the same way. But when you're feeling lonely, reconnect. Be the friend that you are looking for. If you're looking for friends to just fall in your lap and make you feel all warm and fuzzy and cared about, that's not happening. You need to also reach out. Who is it that has been on your heart for some time you still haven't called them? Who do you miss that you haven't heard from? Be who you're looking for, even in relationships. Now, that is another can of worms, but be who you want in your life. Reconnect with people. Practice self-kindness. Really ask yourself, am I lonely because I truly just don't have people around me, don't have meaningful relationships, or am I lonely because I am comparing myself to other people? Social media says I'm lonely. The church says I must be lonely because look at. Try something new. There's so much that you can gain from just doing new things. Even at Orange County Library, if you have a library card, they have a ton of different classes that you can take, learning how to do new things. See what's in your area. Do something. Get a new hobby. Learn a new skill. Do what you already enjoy. Use your talents and find new ways that you can, improve them. And then if you see that your loneliness is just really deep or persistent for a long period of time, please seek counseling. It may be a symptom of something greater. We have to get back to managing ourselves. No one is going to fix your problems. Even as a counselor, I tell my clients all the time, I'm here to help you solve your issue. I'm not the reason why you heal, but I'm here to facilitate and give you interventions and ideas and things that you can use to help you manage yourself. I don't walk with you every day. After this session, I don't see you till next week. What are you doing with your life every day? Are you making a plan and being specific about what it is you want to do? Are you being patient? Are you trusting God? Are you asking people for help? One of the biggest things is taking action. I can give you all of the coping skills, but if you don't do them, we're going to be here next year in the same place. A lot of times we wish that motivation will just like fall on us and then we'll have the energy and we'll be able to go. That's not how it works. You have to act your way into a feeling and not feel your way into an action. Setting goals, making a plan, being patient, being happy where you are. How can he bless you with more if you are cursing what he gave you now? One of my favorite scriptures, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. It's time to take action. It's time to trust God. It's time to evaluate ourselves and be honest with where we are. I want you to take a moment right now and think about one thing you could do to help yourself that you just haven't. One thing. What is that one thing that you could do, but you just don't? Let that be where you start. Thank you. Yeah.
Q&A.
Yeah. You wanna? Okay. Yes, we're here for Q&A.
So it's now time for our question and answer. We're going to be passing around the mics if you guys have any questions on any part of the topics that was presented.
Okay. We have one hand.
Okay. Okay. Hello?
What do you think is the timeline in healing taking away stress?
So timelines are hard to give because there's so many factors that play into it. Effort, their situation, what is causing the stress. If someone is dealing with a lot of stress, like let's say from their job and they're dealing with like intense stress, they may not be able to quote unquote heal from it in that moment because like they could quit their job today. But helping them manage the stress to reduce the intensity is where I would start. But as far as timeline, everyone's timeline is different.
So when someone comes to you for counseling, is it from a referral or do they come on their own?
Well, I work for 2 agencies, so they're a referral from either a doctor or maybe they found me on Psychology Today or something. Thank you.
What would you say to someone who lost someone within this season, and every time the season comes around, that I'm going to say, I guess, seasonal depression?
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, majority of the year, this person's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, today, 8 years ago, my aunt lost her husband, my uncle, and she's fine. the whole year, but around this time is when it just kind of sets in. What advice would you give, at least give to me, so I can, help her of things to do or how to help or how to cope?
So when it comes to grief, that's such a sensitive topic. Everyone grieves differently, everyone feels differently. When it comes to family and friends, I usually just say take your cue from them. Ask them, be around them, give them support. See, I would ask questions like, how can I help you around this season? Creating traditions is very helpful, especially around the holidays, whether they do something in remembrance of their loved one. But there's not anything specific you need to say. Just be present and take your cue from them.
Well, for me, it's kind of hard because for some reason, my uncle's whole entire face is just my face. So it's kind of like me, me trying. It's kind of like you look like him, you know. So it's more like talking on the phone because our voices are different. But being around for her with me, it's a lot.
It's a lot for you. It's a lot for her. Both of you.
For me, I just want to hug her. But for her, it's just a lot. I literally have my uncle's face. So yeah, but I try to be.
Well, I think the conversations that you have with her over the phone is good. If you see that being around her may be stressful, again, take your cue from her. Maybe you don't show your face, but you support in other ways.
Okay.
So I work at a physical therapy clinic, and there's I work with a lot of elderly people, and of course, a lot of them, they have been with their partners for married 40, 50, 60 years plus. And, there's a particular lady, and she comes into, because you can use the gym as a, like your own personal gym once you're discharged anyways. But anyway, so she's been coming for like 10 years. And I think a lot of them, they use that time to socialize and get out, but I know when her husband died, and I know for the last 3 years how she has, she'll be exercising, she breaks out crying, and she'll say, it's my husband's, the anniversary of his, this and that, or it was their anniversary, or it was, his birthday. And I try to, because I see a lot of elderly people, how would you help elders that, they lose their husband or wife, and a lot of them they often follow shortly after. Just because they're old doesn't mean give up now.
Right. And so it would be the same thing as I previously mentioned. You take the cue from them. When it comes to those that are grieving, we do a lot of things that we think are helpful, but for them, it may not be. Yeah. And so just being there, asking questions, seeing how you can help, or just noticing things about them, or saying, oh, was this his favorite machine? See how far they want to go, and see if they can start establishing maybe some traditions to help them during those anniversaries or the holidays. Less is more when it comes to grief. Yeah. But just your presence and being there can be very impactful.
That makes a lot of sense, because I watched this show, one of my, junk shows, but they were arguing with each other, and she was saying, my daughter, well, she committed, she ended her life, and her friend didn't know what to do, so she just didn't show up. But she said, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to, then you say the wrong thing and they're in shambles, so she said, I just wanted you there. Just breathe in the air, just being there shows me that you care.
Yeah. We have a friend who recently lost her husband, and I've learned that sometimes it's just a smile. When I see her, I just smile. And they understand. It's like, I know that you're with me, even though you don't know what to say. And so she just kind of smiles back, gives me a hug, and we have that unspoken communication, because sometimes you don't know what to say, and sometimes there is nothing to say. Just let them know that you're there.
Any other questions?
So what do you tell somebody who obviously needs therapy but is resistant to therapy?
So I even have some people who come and they're still resistant. It's like, hello. Um, so when it comes to those who like need it but are resistant, I would do soft nudges when the spirit leads. All you can do is like encourage and bring it up when necessary, but ultimately you can't force them. Letting them know that you're there for them and that you want to help as much as you can, but you're concerned and you can explain your concerns, but you don't want to like beat them over the head with it. Because if they're like really resistant, it's like with anyone that's struggling with anything and you're like, oh, I wish they'd come to the Lord. There's only so much you can do. You can encourage, you can talk to them about it, and then the last part is to just pray and hope that you've planted enough seeds that they will take it upon themselves to go. So we can't force them.
When you were talking about, you know, relieving stress, but you mentioned that some people, if the stress is their job, they can't really get out of it. It made me think about a client that I had who had a very demanding job, long hours, and I'm trying to coach her about health habits, and she's like, I can't get up from my, you know, I can't, because I'm trying to like, what, make sure that you're doing this, make sure you're doing that, and it just wasn't realistic for her, and I felt so at a loss on how to help her, because it's kind of like, okay, I can't even think about health right now because my job has no, you know, leeway for me to do that. What kind of like small tips would you say, like, at least you can take control in this area or that area, even if you can't necessarily change your job at this point?
So I had a client who had a stressful job. Going, like you mentioned, explaining all the tips and interventions and things that they could do, it was hard for him to accomplish that because the job was just so stressful. He eventually took early retirement and was able to relieve that stress and be able to do all the things that he enjoyed. Sometimes when I have situations like that, I just become a sounding board for them in session, a place where they can, like that soda can, open it up and just let the fizz fly so they can get rid of the pressure. Because for a lot of people, if that situation or if that job is what's causing the chronic stress, most times it's not until that thing is removed that they'll get some type of release. So in that moment, because it can also feel, defeating as a therapist, where it's like, I'm trying all the things, but again, I can't force them to do the interventions. I can't force them to have balance in their life. I can't change their job. So now I just become a place where they can have safety in explaining and just kind of venting what they're going through. And I just help to keep them as steady as possible while they're dealing with that stressful situation. I had a client who dealt with insomnia for over a year. Didn't matter how many pills he took, how many doctors he saw, but when he quit his job, he had sleep. I just had to be a safe place for him during that time.
How do you, one of your points up there was to do something you enjoy, to like relieve stress or release pressure. How do you handle situations where you can't do something that you enjoy? So it's kind of like, say you're working long hours, so you're probably working 12 to 18-hour shift, and then your next shift starts into like another 2 hours or 3 hours and stuff like that. So you probably don't have the time to either do something you enjoy doing, because you probably need to sleep, or probably got to cook or take care of the kids or something like that. So what's your advice for people who are in those situations?
And is that a daily occurrence, like including weekends, like the job schedule is just?
Sure.
Okay. So I know it's hard, especially if you're dealing with kids or a family and you have your job. Um, there's still time somewhere. And if someone is telling me they absolutely just don't have the time, then I'll go back to, okay, let's look at some boundaries. What areas in your life can you say no and you're just afraid to, or you haven't? You know, when I look at just even my life, right? I work 12-hour shifts, like 4 days a week. But there are still moments in my life where if I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, if I wanted to take a break, I probably could, but I just don't, because in my mind, all these other things take precedence. All these other things have to get done before myself. And then it's not until I get sick and I have to sit, don't laugh, babe. He's like, I always got to nurse her when she gets sick. It's not until I get sick and then God sits me down that I'm like, oh, I did have time to do this, that, and the other. If you find that everything is taking all your time, somebody is not getting a no from you.
Thank you. That sounds like you're prioritizing everyone and everything else instead of yourself. And that's, a lot of people are people pleasers who are in healthcare, first responders. It's hard for them to make themselves a priority. That's why I remember one of your slides was saying to say no and setting boundaries.
Yep.
I think people may not know how to set the boundaries.
We're afraid to set boundaries. I always tell people, go back to what it is that you value. What is important to you? Because boundaries aren't necessary if you're not protecting anything. Whatever you value is why boundaries are necessary, because I have to protect what I value. When I worked as a teacher, I never saw parents on a Friday afternoon. I don't care what's going on. I will meet with you Monday through Thursday. I will even come early on Friday. But Friday after 3, my office hours are closed. Oh, well, what are you doing? None of your business. I could be out twiddling my thumbs, but I am not. Oh, well, you know, Ms. Brown, I didn't see you had this available, because it's not available. That's my time, because what? I valued my time. On Thursday nights, my husband and I have date night. Sometimes my girls will be like, oh, let's go hang out and do this, and that's date night with hubby. I value my time, so I'm going to put parameters in place to protect that. So I would go back to, what is it that you value? Yes, we all value safety and security. Some of that comes with money, right? But if you're saying you value love and your family and your time and your church, but nothing about your life or your schedule looks like that's the value, then I have to ask, who are you not saying no to? And we're afraid to be the bad guy. We're afraid to have people be mad at us. We're afraid to be the villain in someone's story. Sometimes they just made you the villain because they don't have anything better to do. But that doesn't mean I am the villain. You're just mad that you got a no today. It's okay. It'll be okay. You'll be fine. And because we're afraid to have people feel some kind of way about us, we say yes to everybody. Even things that we enjoy, sometimes we still need to tell people no, because we're tired. How can I pour from an empty cup?
Any more questions? Online, do you have any questions? This will be the time to chime in.
Y'all are a mess. For people, you gotta tell them no.
Was that someone trying to get in? Any more questions?
Yes, I have one question. What do you say to
person who thinks he or she is their source of stress is the fact they are locked in with someone who they happen to be married to, but they later realize that at the time when they got married, probably something was happening at that time. They thought that, hey, this is really what I wanted to do. And then over time, they recognize that that binding factor, which is love, was never there. It was probably more infatuation. Now they are locked in for life because they have made vows until death do us part. And every time you go home, you have to deal with this man or this woman who you hate to look at. This is their reality. Does one deal with a situation like that?
That one would take some counseling. I would want to talk no, seriously, and I work with a lot of couples and I love my couples, but sometimes we want to talk about stress. Fix him. You chose him. Like, how am I supposed to fix him? I just met y'all 2 days ago. Sometimes when I'm working with couples, I'll split them and talk to them individually, because some of the things, like going to your example where you chose him out of whatever it was, desperation or infatuation, or I just wanted to have somebody. Okay, well, we need to address that, because it's not technically the other person's fault that you picked the way that you did. I would need to know what has gone on in the relationship, a good timeline to see what are some of the breakdown issues and what is that person dealing with, because a lot of times it's a self issue. If the sad part about couples counseling, the reason why, because a lot of times people say couples counseling doesn't work. The reason why it doesn't work is because people come when the house is in ashes, and then they want to try to salvage things. But it's like, I don't call the fire department when my house is in ashes. I call when there's a fire in the kitchen. And so a lot of times people are already fed up that when they come as a last ditch effort to try to fix everything, it's an uphill battle. So I would talk to that person individually, even before I even meet with them as a couple, to see what is going on with them and to really dig deeper into that meaning. Because it's not the person's fault that you chose them because of whatever it was and you didn't take time to get to know them.
There's a case that I happen to be, dealing with. And of course, the reason I ask, because, sometimes if you talk to 10 different people, they may just come up with something that you never thought about. And that is why sometimes they place people in, you have support groups, persons that can assist. But it's a real thing. For some people, the church is a source of pressure. When they turn up at church, they see someone that they just don't like. They hate them. I've heard, persons come to me and tell me personally, yeah, I never did like you. And you ask them the reason. Some cannot really give a reason. And so I think it is, Patrice, you're laughing, it's a reality. Sometimes you have to, dig deep, because people will come with real questions. How do you deal with your house being the source of your stress?
Well, everything is about your perspective, because on one day on the Squad and Friends, we talked a little bit about triggers. And I tell people all the time, a trigger is an internal clock to remind you that you're still struggling with something. So I could walk in with this green dress and then the sister over here is rolling her eyes like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. You are dealing with something. The fact that I triggered you just by walking in with this green dress, that's an alarm clock for you to say, oh, you're still struggling with something, whether it's jealousy, whether it's envy, whether it's insecurity, whether it's whatever it is. So when people are saying, oh, I don't like this person, or I can't stand this church, but you keep coming, So I would have to figure out, okay, what's going on with you? Because it's not just about our perspective. We can look at everything negatively. I could find something wrong with everyone, with everything, with every job, but sometimes we're that common denominator. And so I would want to dig deep with that person. I'm not trying to fix the church. I'm not trying to fix your whole house. Sometimes we are the ones that need the fixing.
I yield back for now.
You had mentioned something about counseling, relationship counseling wise, and doing it before it's in ashes. When would you suggest relationship counseling? Because, I've heard like premarital, then they have pre-engagement now, then sometimes there's just relationship. Like, is that all helpful before marriage, or when would you suggest doing something like that?
I'm glad you asked. My husband can attest to this. When we dated, I'm gonna be honest, he was my first relationship. So I had no clue what I was doing. When I said I spent my 20s just trying to figure my life out, I did. Because, God, I'm not gonna talk about that. So when we were together, no one gets in a relationship or no one gets married to thinking they're gonna get divorced. Nobody does that. But I specifically wanted to make sure I was prepared for whatever, especially because he was real serious. I was like, okay, God, I told you to send somebody, but he's serious. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get married. So I brought up pre-engagement counseling with him at first, because men, they don't want to invest too much emotionally unless they know you're sticking around. Like, why am I doing all this? Are you gonna be here? And so that's what his thought process was at the beginning. For me, the alarm to seek out counseling while we were dating was when we kept hitting our heads against the same problem. I was like, okay, no, we've had this argument a few times for me to be like, I don't think we have all that we need in order to solve this thing. Had we had that, we wouldn't still be having this argument. I wanted to make sure that we had a good, because when you're dating and it's all new and you're nice and thin and you just want to go out and eat all the time, like, this is happy, okay? You feel me, this is happy. I was like, can I get sad again? Like, but when you're all like infatuated and in love and it's new, sometimes you don't even really know if you like this person, but it's something new and you're like, oh, I'm in love. How do you know? And so for me, because I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm really using the right vision here. I need someone to hold me accountable, to be like, okay, no, this is right. Okay, no, you need to check that. Okay, no, he's a great guy. Let's talk about it. Especially when we kept having the same argument over and over. We didn't look at it as, oh, we failed because now we have to seek out counseling. We only fail when we fail. And usually that's when we just stop trying at all, and then now everybody's divorced and moving on. But I even have friends that they've been married for years, and they go to counseling. We maintain everything else in our lives but our marriages. We go to PDs for our jobs. We have to update our licenses. We get our cars washed and maintained, oil change and all of that, but we don't maintain our marriages, because to maintain or to do anything else is like, oh, we're failing. No, none of us were raised to know how to handle things effectively. All of us, majority of us, our parents were just trying to survive, trying to make it, doing what they could with what they had. So for us, I really wanted to make sure that we had the tools necessary to make it. So we did counseling when we were dating. We did pre-engagement counseling to make sure we were on the right path. So we took an assessment that kind of laid out our relationship and our views about things that we probably haven't talked about. And then we had premarital counseling. But and we went to workshops. People thought we were already married before we got married. We were attending everything, because a lot of times we wait till people are in the club to invite them to the meeting. No. I need all of this info before I get down this aisle, okay? Okay, so we attended every marriage workshop.
Sorry. I brought out two more questions, but I'll try to put in one. So were both of you, this may be multiple, so you don't have to answer, were both of you willing to go? Like someone had said over there, what if someone doesn't want to go to counseling? Like in a relationship situation, what if one person doesn't want to go? I guess that's what I'm asking. And also, how did you find dating and pre-engagement?
Come on, come on. Yep, come on. Okay, there you can give it to him. Yeah, yeah. Come on, babe.
I'm just answering this one part, then I'm gonna sit back down. I didn't want to go. No. Most men don't want to do any variation of counseling. And what I encourage women to do, if you really want your man to go to counseling, just logically explain to him how it will benefit him to do so for y'all. Because a lot of times, dudes, men, we view counseling as, oh, this is something you want me to go to whoop me in shape for you. It's not about us, and God knows it ain't about me. So this is just something that this is another thing I got to do to now make you happy. And I already got to go to counseling, and we ain't, I don't know if no, I don't know if I want to do that, then it takes then we get into areas where there's other compromises to try to get this person to now go to counseling, and that ain't gonna work either. So you have to just explain to the gentleman, like, hey, listen, I really want to be with you. I think you're great. I don't know if the both of us have all of the equipment, all of the understanding that we need. I'm not doubting you and your love and your commitment for me. However, I don't know if we have all the tools that we need to make this great, because I want this to work. I think and then compliment them at the end. I think butter him up, stroke an ego a little bit, and boom, he'll go. But, gotta lay it on a little thick.
This was a few conversations. It was like, come on, we can do this. And so finding a counselor, so we go to Patmos, and at the time, Dr. Bushner was there, and I remember going to one potluck at the Smith's house, and Jeremiah, he was like listening to Pastor Bushner, was like, that guy got something, and I saw the twinkle in his eye, and I said, that's who's gonna give us counseling, because if the man can connect with the other man and look at him like he's worth something, he'll listen. Because I knew that it was going to benefit us regardless. So I just wanted someone that he would connect with most, because I knew that it would still benefit us. I just wanted him to you need that buy-in. When it comes to certain things, you got to have that buy-in. And when I saw the connection, I said, there's my buy-in. And then as far as pre-engagement counseling, we had one of the elders at our church who was also a licensed counselor. We used him for the pre-engagement, premarital counseling, because we had a good rapport with him. And I didn't feel like looking all over the world. So I was like, you know what, we're good right here. Go ahead.
I would also say, like, to encourage the man to come to counseling, also make sure that counseling is working on you as well as him. Because if you go there, you might just go to one session and just be like, well, I see that they only tagging in on me and nothing's happening on your side. So it's kind of just seems like it's one-sided. But make sure that's for both of y'all, not just.
Yes, please. Because I will say, in my experience, and again, I love working with couples, I get the most pushback from the women. I'm not gonna lie. If anybody bites my head off, it's the ladies. Because they're okay with me explaining to him how that may not have been the best route to take, or trying to explain her feelings and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as I have to hold them accountable for their own foolishness, I'm now a problem. Because my job was to just fix him. No, because if I do that, I've now lost his trust and his buy-in, and you're not gonna get what you want anyway, because he doesn't even feel like I understand him. You already nagging at him, now I'm gonna come and bite his head off, that's not gonna work. So yes, women, that was a great point, please. You have to make sure that is for both of you. When I brought up counseling to Jeremiah, it was because I felt we both needed tools, because I wanted it to work. And I knew I didn't have everything it took. or I knew there might have been something I'm missing just because I'm all in love. I needed somebody to open my eyes and to have me see everything clearly before making that decision. A lot of people want to invest their money in houses and rings. Invest in some counseling. Yes.
Like, also make sure, like, because if he doesn't want to go to counseling, you gotta start asking him, bro, you want the relationship to work? That's it.
You like right here.
Also, if the guy doesn't want to go to counseling, you got to start asking him, well, do you want the relationship to work? Right? Because if it's not working and nobody wants to fix it, then you're just going to be in a broken relationship, and that hurts both people for the long term instead of just taking a short term time to look at help.
And again, going back to, thank you, Antoine, going back to even piggybacking off of that, we have to get to a place where boundaries are important. Boundaries are necessary to give us balance in our life. A lot of times, especially when we're dating, regardless of your situation, we're so happy to just have somebody that we're not really being honest with what it is that we need. We're just focusing on what we want, right? And so being able to walk away from something that isn't working is very hard. But we have to be willing to do it, because again, I have people who come into me 10 years married, but they're bringing up stuff from 9 years ago, bringing up stuff from 10 years ago. This has always been a problem. And then when I say, why are you here? I love him. I didn't hear nothing about love in these last 40 minutes. But because you spent so much time making a bad decision, you keep making the bad decision because you've wasted so much time. But we look at it like it's an investment. No, you're wasting time. And because you want to save face and you don't want to look silly during the holidays, or you don't want to be alone again, or you don't want to change your profile, we just keep making a bad decision.
I have a question. So it's the holiday season, right? So we have Thanksgiving coming up, and we have Christmas, big one. For a lot of people, their family does not look the same, okay? You have people missing out of that, whether it's through death, divorce, whatever. You know, the family unit and whatever they're used to, and a lot, you know, those are the hot topics, are divorce and you know, death and how to deal and cope with that. People dive really deep into depression and just, it's not the same. I don't want to be there, be a part. And then the holidays are tainted for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So how can, I know you gave a lot of tips tonight, but anything specific you get, because the traditions are gonna look different.
So for that person dealing with it, or how can family support?
Or that maybe if they're by themselves and they, you know, just lost their husband or something, or it's a family unit and they have their children and, you know, or whatever the case is. Yeah, how a family can deal with that for the holidays.
And grief looks different for everyone. You can grieve, like you said, a family that you once had. You know, we're no longer together. The kids are maybe at the husband's house this Christmas, and I'm going to get them next Christmas. So grief is beyond just death. It's anything, is focusing on the loss of what was, right? The holidays, again, are hard because it's a time when everybody's supposed to get together, but you're angry because what was is no longer here. As far as family supporting that person who's grieving, again, just supporting them, making sure that you take a cue from them and just, you know, surrounding them with love, creating new traditions. But if you yourself are dealing with grief, like you as the individual person, one thing I would remind people is that we can't get back what we had. And if you're only focusing on what it used to be, then yeah, you're going to be depressed. Depression is when we hold on to the past, when we have regret. If I look too far behind me, I'm going to be depressed. There's going to be things that I wish I had done differently, things that I wish I could redo. But when we are too far in the future, that creates anxiety, worry, because I'm wondering what it's going to be like, right? Which is why we're always talking about, in counseling, we talk about mindfulness, staying in the moment. When COVID happened, a lot of things changed. How we did church changed. Our jobs changed. How school is ran changed. Everything changed. And people were like, I can't wait till it goes back to normal. We need to focus on the new normal and not live in the past, because you're going to be depressed, because you're trying to hold on to something that no longer is. So if you can focus on what it is now and start creating those new traditions and living in the newness of this situation, then the depression won't be so frequent or as heavy. But you have to accept where we are right now.
Especially when it comes to death. I think, it's a loved one. I don't think that you should, like, forget about them, right?
Right.
I think I see when people create new traditions and they'll do things that the person likes. And it's like everybody's all of a sudden laughing, or it's a really sentimental, so they'll create new ways to still incorporate that person and make them still present somehow.
Yeah, it's about functioning in your new normal. They're never going to be forgotten, but they're not here. And so living, constantly wishing for what you had is where we fall into depression. You had a question?
I just wanted to add on to what you just said with that question, that for people in the sphere, the network, the friends, family, I like the idea that people can, that is like the both and, like two things can be true. A person can be grieving and they can also enjoy whatever is happening in the present. And it's helpful for family and friends not to minimize that and be like, oh, well, it was better to, or you don't have to worry about, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to minimize to also acknowledge that we're enjoying whatever's happening in the present. Because that grief is still going to be a constant for however long that person is going through that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
There's also different stages of grief too. So, there could be a lot of anger, resentment, and then it's just, after that, it's just, once you get over those things, then it goes into just kind of grieving that thing, So there's different stages to grieve too.
And sometimes you go through the stages 4 or 5 times. Like, you'll get to acceptance and you think you're done, and then you're right back to anger, and you're like, what? How did I get back to one?
So like you were saying about really paying attention to that person, to see, are they in that bitter, maybe angry stage, and probably should kind of stay away from them, let them be by themselves and kind of be still and figure that out. And then you can be there when they're more accepting of what has happened, and,
And just be a support. Yeah. Don't pressure them or yourself. Give yourself grace. The holidays are always hard. But if we can focus on what we have and celebrate what we had, then we won't struggle so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Miss Theresa Brown. We appreciate you, and we appreciate Patmos for coming out and supporting her as well. And we appreciate all of our friends here from our surrounding churches. It is hard to get up here, even though, you're a professional, you've been doing it for X amount of years. Like, it's still hard. And we thank you for coming out and supporting our team as well on this program. We've been so blessed tonight, and we've learned so much. And this is what our team is about. The social committee is not just, to reach out to other churches and work and coordinate together, And we look forward to other programs with you guys and supporting you guys as well. And you'll be seeing us, if people participate. We would like to extend it to all the churches because that's what it's about, community and being together, not about one church, this one is over here, this one is there. We are all under one blanket, and so we should just all support each other. Okay, so I would like to end tonight with these questions from what you've learned tonight from Miss Theresa to think about. So, how would your life be different if you dealt with stress and pressure effectively? Excuse me. Some of those things she talked about: being still, saying no, okay, being content with what you have and happy where you are. How would your life be different if you dealt with stress and pressure effectively? Second question, what do you think is God's design for dealing with stress? Okay. And to wrap it up, the ultimate question at stake here is this: do I really believe God is good and He knows what He's doing? You see, much of the pressure that we build up in our lives is a result of not believing that God is in control and has our best interests in life. That's why prayer and thankfulness to God shifts our perspective off the circumstances and on to the one who can do all things and works all things together for our good. Let's take some time to do that. So I want to have Ms. Theresa come up and end our night with prayer. And there's snacks outside. Please enjoy. And I hope you guys come and visit us again. And so we'll just end tonight with prayer.
All hearts and minds are cleared. Lord, we just thank you for another wonderful night. We thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you for just your love that you show us every day, though sometimes we may not see it. Lord, I thank you for everyone that is here tonight and those that are watching online, that you be with every family represented here, that you be with Solid Rock, and that you continue to use us as vessels to comfort those who may be hurting, to be a listening ear for those that are lonely, and to give encouragement for those that need help. Lord, as we approach the holidays, there are a lot of people that are sad, that are grieving, that are lonely, that are scared. I ask for your blessing over them right now, that you give them comfort, that you help them to help themselves, that you give them the motivation and the energy that they need to take action and to lean on you for understanding. For your word tells us to be anxious for nothing, but to come to you in prayer and supplication and thanksgiving. Lord, help us to be still. Help us to be content. Help us to lean on you. Help us to gain understanding. Ask that you bless us, that you cleanse us from all sin, and that you help us to remember that whatever you've done for us before, Lord, you will do it again, and we can trust you. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Brother Marcus, can you please there it is. If you guys would like, you can scan the barcode now or on the way out. And at any time you please, if you would like to give an offering or just check out what is on the website, we would greatly appreciate it. Yep, so Vesper Nights, go ahead and scan the code. And Brother Marcus, if you could play the song that we had in the beginning as we exit. And thank you all so much for coming out, for your time and your contributions.